In my last video I spent about 5 minutes gushing about how turn-based RPGs were back and gave some examples of the amazing games that have been coming out and are yet to be released. If I was trying to get any message across, is that I am a big fan of this particular type of games. So, in this follow-up video, I think it would be quite interesting to tell you what are some of my favorite turn-based games. While making this list, I had some weird picks that some of you might consider weird, since I'm quite literally walking on the edge by calling some of them turn-based, but as always, my list, my rules, so let's get right into this list. Also, I'd like to say, as some people say, this list is in no particular order since I enjoy my games whenever I'm playing them and there's no guarantee I like a game today as much as I liked it back when I played it. The first game I have here is Plants vs Zombies. Now you might be asking, PvZ? Really? Yes, really. PvZ was a game I played to a stupid amount when I was younger, either on my phone, on my crappy old laptop, or on my dad's rusty computer. PvZ is a game that completely oozes with charm. Everyone that has had a phone or tried some games in their life knows about some of the characters of the game, like the zombie, the sunflower, or the pea shooter. The game is actually quite simple. While it's not completely turn-based, I'd argue it's an active time battle turn-based similar to that of Final Fantasy VII. The game basically consists of using your weapon-based plants to defend your yard from the zombies who are attacking to get Crazy Dave's brain. I'm not really clear on the story on this one, but I do find it really funny when the zombies leave a note before attacking your yard. The turn-based element comes when you're gathering suns to plant your army, because the game gives you quite some time before the zombies attack, making it so it works similarly to a round system. Plants vs Zombies is a game I like to come back to from time to time, as I think the levels are quite unique for the time it was released. I love the way the game slowly introduces new plants and new mechanics by changing the maps, making it so the game doesn't get stale while you play it. The game is on Steam for quite cheap and it's worth the price even if it isn't on discount, so if you want something chill to play on your free time, make sure to give it a try. Now, on to the next game. Okay, now we're talking plain turn-based gameplay. Final Fantasy I. This game not only was responsible for reviving Squaresoft back when it was released, but it was responsible for some of the most common tropes of RPGs that are still seen in games as of nowadays. Despite this game being over 30 years old, I only beat it last year, and surprisingly it was the first Final Fantasy I ever played until the end. I played the Pixel Remastered version and absolutely loved it. After all these years, the game is still very good. The game plays like you would expect an RPG this old to play. There are the classical random encounters and the occasional grind, but as always it feels very good to be the new boss and deal increasingly more damage throughout the game. The story here, albeit present, is almost non-existent. Basically, all you have to do is go around the world, kill 4 of Garland's fiends and restore the 4 crystals that support the world. It is very cliché. Final Fantasy I is a game I highly recommend to anyone that's interested in starting the Final Fantasy franchise. If you play it nowadays, you also have the benefit of having the prequel to this game in the form of Strangers of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, which in a way gives the story a bit more sense, making it a tad more interesting for the player. Chained Echoes is one of the games I mentioned in my previous video, and as I said, it is probably one of the best games I've played in the last 5 to 6 years. I know this is something very controversial to say, but Chained Echoes is probably one of, if not the best turn-based RPG that is out right now. The game was made by a solo dev called Matthias Linde, and it's an amazing JRPG that manages to mix in a good story, all the quality of life elements you can imagine, good systems and good combat. The game was rated a 91 on Metacritic, which is a score I think should be even higher. The care that was put into each of the designs in this game is something that really should be appreciated. Every character has a unique design and the map feels amazing to traverse, since it has a lot of secrets to uncover and backtracking to do, so that you can unlock even more fun stuff to use like class tokens and better gear. As I said, the game basically has all the quality of life features you can imagine. It has no random encounters, no grinding for levels due to the Grimoire Shard, which adds a skill point to every single one of your characters, which also works retroactively, so it is a good bonus. It automatically heals you after battle, so you don't have to stack consumables, and it makes you feel like you're actually progressing because every attack you get feels bigger and better. Overall, I think Chained Echoes is a must play if you're a fan of JRPGs in general, so by my orders, go buy it right now. Okay, I bet this one was one you weren't expecting. Swords and Sandals, the character creator turn-based gladiator simulator that used to be a Flash game, is now on this list. This game was one I played to death back when I was little, and to be honest, I had no clue what I was doing. Hell, I still don't know if I'm being pretty honest with you. In this game you create your own gladiator and get thrown into an arena where you have to win against your opponent. This concept is really simple, which makes it appealing to everyone. After every battle, you get to go back to town, and in town you're able to spend the money by buying new clothes, upgrading your weapons and upgrading your stats. If you die in this game, you have to start all over again, because that's just how it worked back in the day. Lose a gladiator, fetch a new one. There are quite a few collections of Swords and Sandal games on Steam for questionable prices, but if you want to relive your memories you should give it a try, as the ports are quite well made and the game still feels fun to play. Pokemon time, and it's Gen 5 we're talking about. How can I not show some love to Gen 5? Team Plasma, the banging OST, some of the best legendaries ever made, amazing dragon-type Pokemon, an actual intriguing story, and animated sprites which I will defend until the day I'm 7 feet deep in the ground. Pokemon White was the first Pokemon game I ever got, and it led me into a downward spiral throughout my life, which only stopped in the current generation with Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. These games are the only turn-based games I can guess most people have played or at least heard of in their lives, and as turn-based games they excel at what they do. As for Pokemon Black and White, what I really enjoyed was the Gen 5 roster and setting. Everything from the towns to the gyms to the basic trainer designs had a charm to it that the previous games didn't really have. If you take into account Gen 5 and the games that came previously, you can see just how much it stands out from the bunch, and I think that was the main reason for why it split the fanbase in two when it released. You could say that with Gen 5 for me it all comes down to nostalgia, but I'm pretty confident of the quality of these games. The replayability and the depth of the gameplay is something I will defend forever. I myself clearly remember putting over 500 hours in my copy of Pokemon White when I was a child, and that says something about a game. Now for the last game on the list, I know you probably weren't expecting this, as it's not the first thing you think of when you think turn-based games, but when you combine turn-based RPG gameplay with Star Wars and innovate upon it, you're set to make what is considered one of the best RPGs of the early 2000s. KOTOR 2 was made by Obsidian Entertainment, and it is one of the best Star Wars games. The turns in this game work as a wait system, where you can pause mid-combat and decide your next actions, giving a unique spin to the traditional turn-based gameplay. Keeping in mind the unique gameplay, you also have to remember that this is Star Wars, and it's Legend Star Wars, which meant at that time it wasn't restricted by canon. This eventually led to the creation of some of the most unique Star Wars characters and storytelling. When you think of the dark side in Star Wars, one of the first things you think of is Darth Vader or Emperor Palpatine. KOTOR 2 has some of the most badass Star Wars villains of all time, with designs that top whatever Disney is putting out nowadays. Like Darth Nihilus and Darth Sion. These two look like they destroy my home planet for breakfast and rob my soul for lunch, and it sickens me that even big Star Wars fans don't know of their existence. What makes KOTOR 2 a great game are the vast worlds you are able to explore and the Obsidian RPG elements the game includes, like being able to build your party, approach quests in different manners, fully customizing your character and choosing which paths you want to take in the story. For a game released in 2005, the game also doesn't look bad, but if you ask me, I don't really care about graphics and I'd play this any day if I was craving a good Star Wars story. KOTOR was a landmark RPG, and the way it changed up the traditional turn-based mechanics certainly inspired some CRPGs we see nowadays. If you're a Star Wars fan like me, I think this is definitely a must-play, and for the cheap prices it gets on Steam, if you're a fan of Star Wars, RPGs and turn-based games, you have to play this. Well, this was quite the weird list if I have to say. From Plants vs Zombies to Final Fantasy to KOTOR 2, there was some variety here. These are all games I really enjoyed myself, and I think it's a fun list to make since I honestly doubt anyone expected these picks. I'd recommend you check any of the games in this list since most of them are still easily accessible nowadays on modern platforms and really enjoyable to play no matter how old they are. I hope you enjoyed this video or at least learned something from it. I certainly want to make more videos regarding turn-based games or turn-based RPGs to be more specific, since there are a lot of retro titles to cover there. Other than that, make sure to please leave a like. As always, it really helps the channel. Check out my last video on turn-based RPGs or any other video you might enjoy. Subscribe if you don't want to miss out any of the future content in this channel. This has been the Retro Den, and I'm out.